Welcome to Whisperwood Stories. Today, we read 4 stories from r/backwoodscreepy. Let's begin. Our first story is from jaxonstevie. Weird experience my girlfriend and I were recalling a while ago at Ohiopoly State Park in PA. Now I'll start with saying that the story isn't very climactic, so if that's what you want to read, I'm sorry. This doesn't have that dramatic of an ending or much of anything. Just seeing if anyone has had similar experiences near abandoned buildings, or better yet, in Ohiopoly. So about a year and a half ago, my girlfriend went down to Ohiopoly State Park. We frequent there as we live an hour away, and it's one of the best parks within a day's trip reach of us, to hike, swim, and mushroom hunt and explore in general. So the one day we got bored of the normal hiking areas and places we've been, so we decided to drive around the back roads, deeper into the woods of the park. No map, just deciding which way to turn. When we got to intersections, and going from there, we pass a random old cemetery that I remember. And it couldn't have been a mile or more down the road when we noticed a more dirt/dilapidated road with a chain in front of it so cars couldn't go into it. So we decided to park the car, go explore the trail and the area in general. There were no signs for trespassing reports or anything like that, so we continued on. I'll never forget the eerie feeling I had as soon as we made it onto the trail/road. Just a general sense of, you shouldn't be here. But I don't listen. My girlfriend seems intrigued. There's no one around at all, and it seems like a beautifully secluded area. So we head back some more, and we noticed an abandoned visitor center. So obviously we had to go check it out. I have a picture of it, which I'll post in the comments once I find it. So this is where things start to get really creepy. About 100 feet away from walking up to the building, that alarm in my head was going off. You shouldn't be here. It intensified immensely, but I was curious about the building still. My girlfriend at the time was freaking out internally. She wants to leave as she feels uneasy and unwelcome to where we are as well. I want to explore the building because I love abandoned places. In that time of walking up, I realized the woods went silent. I don't hear bugs, any more buzzing around, no chirps of the birds, not even branches swaying in the wind. We get up to the building and my girlfriend is pleading that we go back. And I said, let's just take a step in and we can go. I'm approaching the stairs to the door from the left side and, no joke, straight out of a cheesy horror movie, a bird out of nowhere flies into the window of the building. And not 5 seconds later, I heard what sounded like either a log or a very large branch cracking on the other side of the building. And I'd like to clarify, there was no way it was a small branch or twig. It sounded almost like a tree breaking directly on the other side of the building. I pulled my pistol out and walked quickly backwards facing the building and told my girlfriend to walk as quickly and quietly as we can back to the car. And we hopped in and left as quick as the car would go into drive. So for my question for this whole mini-story, here's some facts about the area and stuff in general. Natives did used to live in this area way back when. Black bears do reportedly live in the area, though you don't see them too often, and I've never seen one there. But like I said, it's a possibility. Second possibility that came to mind was another human. But the thing that broke it did not sound like a human walking over a branch. And so what made me think of it this time was I've recently gotten into Appalachia folklore and stories and reading about Wendigo, SW, crawlers, and such. So for my question, has anyone had similar experiences in PA or in general? And if so, what else happened or what do you think it could have been? Our second story is from paplc. Eyes in the Backwoods. Not sure how good of a place this is to post this, but I am hoping for some possible answers. I live in northeastern America in a pretty rural place with lots of hills, not too many neighbors, and a lot of forest. Just tonight, I was headed with my mother down our backyard, which is large and relatively clear for about 1,000 feet, then switches to woods. We got about 30 feet from the woods, and I caught sight of some eyes reflecting in my headlamp. They were a good 50 to 100 feet away, and I assumed they were just deer, but a few things convinced me that they might not be. Around where I live, deer will run away if you make enough noise, and we were talking pretty loud, but the eyes weren't moving. They kept staring directly at us, which is incredibly unlike deer in the area. On top of that, a pair of eyes on the right were very low to the ground, very wide set, too far apart to be deer considering the distance. We stood for a minute, remarking on them, and neither pair of eyes looked away. So since we were spooked, we headed back up to the house, got my brother a machete, a bat, and a metal pole. I know, a little overkill, but our area has been a little scary lately, and headed back down. I expected the eyes to be gone by that point, but no, they were still there, in slightly different spots than they had been, but not much further from where they were previously. They stared just as steadily as they had before, so we retreated back inside. Logical answer is deer, but the lack of running away, intense staring, and wide-set eyes feel like that option is ruled out. Another thought is wild dogs, but we don't usually have those in our area. It is possible to be a black bear, but those are notoriously scared of people. If anyone has any thoughts on what it might be, please let me know. Our third story is from SuchSloth. It's back. Some of you might know my story about the woods behind my house, some may not. About a year ago, I had an encounter with something. To this day, I don't know what, but I know it's back, and I know it wants me. If you'd like to read it, it's on my profile. Fair warning, it's 1:30 a.m. while I'm writing this, and as many of my posts go, it's going to be a long and awful read. Sorry ahead of time. Things were quiet. We started to all but forget about my mystery woodland encounter we had last year. For the most part, my girlfriend and I had moved on from it. That was until 2 months ago, on a cold February morning. My girlfriend had discovered that one of our chicken legs were snapped in half. I took her to the vet and they were as confused as I was. There was no sign of any attack or clear indication of who or what did this. They recommended that I put her down, but I just couldn't do it. I believed maybe with some rehab and a safe environment she'd heal. I took her home and I put her in the pool house. I went about my days thinking nothing of it. To this day she hops around with one foot and is thriving. Anyway, a week goes by, and I come out one morning to find another chicken of ours with both legs snapped clean in half. I ran over as fast as I could to find a similar situation. There was no sign of attack or any blood to be found. I took her to the vet and unfortunately I had to put her down. At this point, I had a chilling feeling as to what might be going on here. I think it's back. The next day, I set up cameras facing those woods. I spent $700 on the best trail cams and the most well-reviewed SD cards that I could find, determined to capture it this time. I made a rule that I'd check them every day, twice a day, to not miss anything. Every time I'd find nothing, just some cats and my chickens doing animal stuff. Since we found the first chicken, I haven't been able to sleep. I've had night terrors, nightmares, and sleep paralysis almost every night. I kept having a dream about the woods. Something chasing me, something attacking me, or getting lost in there. I'm constantly on edge, and it seems like every noise makes me jump. Yesterday morning, I went to check the cameras. They're gone. Poof. I was baffled and in utter disbelief. I hid these cameras so well that not even my girlfriend could find them, and yet they're gone. I searched everywhere for these things. Every inch of my yard. Every nook and cranny of the house. And pool house. No trace of them. Angry, confused, and upset, I put on my boots, a thick jacket, and headed into the woods, determined to figure out what this thing was and what it wanted with me. Remember now, those woods are dense and thick. Everything is overgrown and muddy, or so I thought. I pushed my way through vines and bushes, around trees and stumps, and I stumbled upon something I wish I had never found. A clearing. I stopped for a moment to try and understand what I'm looking at. I wish I could share a Google satellite view to prove that this clearing can't possibly exist, but then it dawned on me. Where the hell am I? How long have I been walking? Did I just go the wrong way? Am I lost? Amongst all my confusion, something catches my eye. It's one of my trail cameras smashed on the ground. How the hell did this end up here? It was at this time I realized how absolutely silent it was. I mean, I could hear my own heart beating. Reality set in and I had the immediate urge to run as fast as I could in the opposite direction. This is where I'm at a complete loss. I took what I thought was maybe 100 steps through some dense vines and brush, and there I was, at the back of my property. Felt like it took a minute or two of scrambling through the thick overgrowth, and I was back. Still, absolutely panicking, I continued onward until I reached the back door. I bolted the door and locked myself in the bedroom. I haven't said a word to anyone today. I called out of work. It's been about 18 hours. And all I can think about is going back in. I'm scared. I can't sleep. I know it's watching me through my bedroom window. Our last story is from Aaron. I'm pretty sure there was a skinwalker on my grandfather's farm. I'm not the type of person to believe in this kind of stuff, especially because I'm not superstitious at all. But these two encounters made me doubt whatever is going on this farm. The first encounter occurred when me and my two friends were having dinner. Everything was calm. We were eating outside since this is a relatively big space. That was until we heard a woman scream, which is extremely odd since the country I live in is very calm, with very few criminality or even animal attacks, since we were in the wilderness. I'm the first one to react. I climbed the wall that separated the house and grounds from the animal part. From there, I could see almost all the houses near mine. My friends get up right after me. We stay in total silence, waiting for another scream. And we heard it. This time we could understand what she said. "Help!" she yelled. Then a bunch of gibberish no one could really understand. One of my friends quickly grabs the phone to call the police, as we assume it could be domestic violence or robbery. I grab my axe. My other friend follows me to the gate. We didn't leave. Nobody knew what we would find, since something sounded odd about those screams. Right before the police arrived, we hear a thud and then glass breaking. I assume it was a window. As soon as the police arrive, the screams stop, never to be heard again. The police found nothing. Later that night, me and my friends stayed up, chatting about what happened. One of them was oddly quiet. When I asked him what was wrong, he simply said, "I've heard those screams before." Apparently, he had heard that woman scream a couple of times while he was walking his dog. Next day, we get up and decide to go check the house the screams were coming from. But there was one thing weird about it when we arrived at the place. There was no house. It was forest terrain, with nothing more than big trees and bushes. We came back and decided to forget what happened, since we wanted to have a good time. No one would relate this encounter with a skinwalker, obviously. I didn't at first, but when it happened twice, I started connecting everything. Second encounter happened when my cousins were over. Similar to the previous night, we were having a good, peaceful dinner. That's when me and my cousin decided to go for a little walk in the garden we had. The garden made frontier with a huge forest, only separated by a small stone wall. We were just talking and laughing when I started to hear men talking. Not in a normal voice. Sounded like there was something in his throat. It produced a weird voice frequency. Again, I go grab my axe, and my cousin calls his sister. We got ourselves near the wall to hear what he was saying. Like the first encounter, we could only understand gibberish coming from him. He wouldn't stop talking, not even taking breaks to catch his breath. After a while of listening to it, we realized we couldn't do nothing about it. So we leave and finish our dinner. They leave and I find myself alone in here. It was quite unsettling. Then I start overthinking more and more, and I remember the times my dog would spend entire nights barking at the forest, when all the existent animals there were wiped out by hunters. I remember the warnings my parents gave me when I was a child, to always leave that forest and lock all doors before sunset. Regardless of my questions, they would never tell me why, because as I mentioned before, it was a calm little location, in a calm county, in a calm country. I couldn't understand why so many worried. It all ended when the lumberjacks came down to cut down all the grown trees, leaving the forest pretty visible. Before the trees were cut down, you couldn't see anything in there, even during the daytime. After they cut the trees and the good weather came, nothing weird happened. My dog stopped barking at the wall. I would like to know if I'm just being paranoid. Thank you for listening to Whisperwood Stories. If you enjoyed, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe down below. Do you have a story that you'd like me to read here? Consider commenting or sending it to whisperwoodsubmissions@gmail.com. The stories in this video were read with their authors' permissions. Thank you again for listening, and be sure to check out the original Reddit posts. Don't let the shadows get too close.